All right, welcome back to the Atlanta podcast.
Hello.
We're on season one, episode 3. This one's called "Go for Broke."
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Hope you are enjoying the podcast up to date. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. We share an interest in this for the creative part of it. Donald Glover in particular, and we're gonna just dive right in and hope you guys support this podcast. We started a Patreon
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. Patreon. We got tiers. One tier that'll get you a shout out in the video. More tiers will get you access to bonus episodes. Other tiers will get you access to the episodes 2 weeks early. First tier, $5, that'll get you a shout out. $10 will get you access to 2 weeks early. $15 will get you access to bonus episodes where we talk about stuff like Childish Gambino music videos, related stuff that members of the crew of Atlanta have worked on. So go check that out.
All right, episode 3, Go for Broke. So the first scene in this episode tells us what we kind of already know. Ern is broke. He's in a difficult financial situation. This scene is kind of funny. He's in the checkout line of a fast food restaurant trying to order a kid's meal, and he's speaking under his breath because he's kind of humiliated about the fact that he doesn't have enough money to buy, I guess, a full meal. And the person at the checkout line is asking him to speak up to place his order, and then she rejects him because apparently at this restaurant you're not allowed to, as an adult, you're not allowed to order a kid's meal, which then Ern argues with the woman about, and there's a back and forth, which is kind of funny. He eventually gives up. He loses the argument. But he asks for a cup for water, which the woman gives him, and then he ends up stealing soda from the soda fountain, and he leaves. This is kind of a good intro to the scene because it does focus a lot about his financial situation and the impact that it has on him and his relationships as we get into this with some of the other
And
characters.
I will throw in, Ern was absolutely right. You can totally order a kid's meal without being a kid.
Have you done that?
Well, my sister has done that every time we go to a fast food restaurant.
I am aware of that.
Yeah.
But that's not because of poverty. That's because of her strange
That's
predilection for kids' foods. Or kids, I guess maybe the size of the food, the meals.
Portion
She's
size.
probably still doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually, something really interesting that I thought about this first scene that I noticed that I didn't initially see when I watched it. I actually watched this episode 3 times. I watched it, obviously, the first time I was going through this show. And then right after we filmed or recorded the second episode of this podcast, I just decided to watch the third episode without taking notes, because I go through and I note things that I think are interesting, but I just decided I just kind of wanted to watch through it without needing to focus on, oh, what am I going to say on the podcast and stuff like that. And I didn't notice this until the third time that I went through when I was actually taking notes, that this scene is kind of the first instance of a slightly recurring motif in Atlanta, which is that people who are in these really, really poor neighborhoods are kind of only looking out for themselves, and they're not willing to help other people because it might put them at risk. And we'll see more examples of this later on. But in this case, it's the woman who is the manager of this fast food restaurant, where she specifically says something like, I didn't become manager by giving out discounted meals to people. And the thing is that instead, what ends up happening is that Ern ends up stealing from this restaurant instead of
kind of out of spite.
Yeah. Instead of this policy of only kids can order kids meals makes absolutely no sense. And I think it's supposed to, because the thing is so what if you ordered a kid's meal? That's another sale for the company, right? They're definitely still making a profit on that.
Yeah.
So there's absolute but I think the point of that is that the woman despite certainly knowing this, being the manager of this restaurant, still says, I'm not gonna help you out, even though he's she definitely understands that he's poor, because he is embarrassed about it, and he's like, hey, can I order her kids? Like he wouldn't be ordering a kid's meal unless he couldn't afford a adult meal, right? And based on the neighborhood that they're in, this is readily apparent, and she's still just totally unwilling to help him out,
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't pick up on that.
I didn't pick up on it either. The thing is, I didn't pick up it. I didn't pick up on it either until the thing is, when he goes to steal the soda and he looks over and notices that the other employee is watching him. That employee is an old white lady, and the woman who rejects his getting the kids' meal is a young black woman.
Oh.
And that's a big part of this show is Yeah, she was.
I don't remember that.
And that's a big part of this show is talking about how a lot of the distrust and a lot of that we've seen in episode 1, where the main characters are pointing guns to the heads of people who knock on their door. That paranoia comes from knowing that everybody who's poor in this, and especially people in black neighborhoods, which are more likely to be impoverished and stuff like that. Everybody is just doing whatever they can to get by. They're looking out for number one, and that means not helping other people. If it puts you at even a slight risk, because you have so much to lose, right? But this old white lady, I think the reason why she just watches Ern take this soda, and he just puts his hand up to his mouth or whatever, is that she's who cares? She's like, what do I care? What do I have to lose? She's probably she's older. She's probably lived her own life. She's, but this young woman who the young manager, she probably came from a poor, just kind of based on the way that she talks and how clearly seriously she takes her job. She's keeping a smiling face and stuff, even though Ern is obviously really annoying her and that kind of thing. But yeah, while Ern is talking to this manager lady, she's just keeping a straight face and being all friendly and doing good customer service, and it's that obviously takes a lot of skill. You need to have a lot of practice.
So I have a slightly different take on this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tell me.
That's a character that similar to the woman that saw Paperboy in the front yard with her kids. She flipped, right? She started off in one mode, saying, what are you doing? Mind your own business. And then she flipped to this different personality once she realized who it was. This is kind of the manager behind the desk was. She was kind of insistent in ruling over Ern. She had the authority over him, and she's going to insist that that even though it's the customer.
You thought it was partly motivated by wanting to be maintain power.
Yeah, that's actually a pet peeve of mine. I could go off on a tangent on that, but then
you mean
what I
with
noticed
customer
was,
service
after
in your experience.
Well, okay, I will go. I will go off on a tangent. People that are gatekeepers, somebody at a parking garage that won't let you in, or somebody in the airport security line that's an asshole to you because you have a bottle of water. Those people, they probably hate their jobs, and they're they just feel shitty about for whatever reason. Maybe there's a good reason why they're like that, but then they take it out on people who are just passing by,
Well,
and they just want to get to a destination.
I have a bit of a different interpretation on this, because I've worked a food line, what do they call a assembly line type job. And a lot of the time people would come by and say just hey, can I just take a water cup? And, technically because it's policy, we have to say, sorry, no, I'm going to have to charge you 25 cents for that. And for us, we have, we had managers watching us. So if I said, no, I'm going to have to charge, if I said oh yeah, here, just take that for free, my manager would be hey, you can't do that,
Sure.
And maybe I'd get a warning, but I might get written up for that.
But you say sorry, I can't do this. I mean,
I try to be as nice. I try to be as nice
her.
as I can. If somebody in like customer service is like being mean to you, like that is explicitly a no-no.
That's my pet
at least in the
peeve
jobs that I've worked. Yeah,
but
I feel like this woman in the episode of Atlanta, like she was being pretty nice to it. Like at the beginning, she was like, "I'm sorry, you can't order a kid's meal." Like I don't know, she wasn't being as like I didn't get this job. Yeah. That was a little bit. Yeah, like that was a little
That's
bit.
When she flipped.
Like that was a. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call that like. To me, I feel like that wasn't so much her being like mean and rude, so much as just kind of like, I don't know, insisting. Like Ern had kind of, or like Ern was going, oh, I know that's a lie. Like I know you're lying to me. Do you have to be named like Jimmy something to get the job? I don't know. There was like some name. Do you have to have a foot long or whatever to get a foot long or something? That was. Incidentally, I think that line was actually like the first joke in the show that I don't think landed. Like I when he was like, do you have to have a foot long to never mind, that one doesn't work so well. If he like kind of stumbles or whatever, I was like that wasn't really funny, which is like rare for this show. It's usually very on point with comedy.
She had the authority over him to like stand in his way. She was a gatekeeper. She was not going to let him have what he wanted.
Yeah. I guess I just got the impression based off of the way that she acted, like she was more so, and based off of like the rest of the context of the scene and the show, that like she was more so motivated in not giving him what he wanted out of like fear for losing her job than really? Like, well, I mean, maybe not. She thought like, oh, if I give this guy a kid's meal, I will lose my job. But it's like, it's the fact that there's such a small chance. There's just a minute chance that like, one of her employers might say, hey, you're not allowed to give that adult a kid's menu, and then like report her. She was the manager. Yeah. Okay.
So I stand by.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah. No, what I mean is that like, despite the fact that she is in a position where realistically it poses her like a fraction of a decimal of like risk to, give Ern this meal that she's technically not allowed to give him, which is enforced by a rule that really shouldn't even be enforced.
And she was standing behind.
However,
authority,
like despite all of those factors that say like despite all of those legitimate factors that say like it would be ridiculous to not give Ern a kid's meal, she still decides not to give him a kid's meal, right? And like I feel like based on her dialogue and based on the nature of Atlanta and the types of characters that it tends to focus on, and then the inclusion of like what cemented it was like the white woman just like staring at him and then allowing him to get away with it directly afterwards, told me like, what's the difference here? Like why is he stealing, which is like this is objectively bad for the company, like they're losing money. Yeah. He's not paying for it, and like they're just letting him get away with it, versus this like arbitrary breach of policy, quote unquote, which like this young black woman is completely willing to uphold like seemingly at any cost, right? So like I'm thinking, why is that? Is it likely that it's just because she's like an egomaniac, or might it play into the greater themes that Atlanta is like consistently getting at? And I feel like it's the latter, but I mean I totally understand.
All right, let's.
We've been on the one scene for too long.
so Ern ends
There's a lot to say about this show. Like I literally paused 20 seconds in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much to say about this. But yeah, go ahead.
So Ern ends up walking through the rain to visit Alfred at his apartment. They get high while they're playing video games, and here we see actually unlike the first episode where Ern rejects the marijuana, he actually like smokes it with him this time, so he's not averse to that. Anyway, Ern's complaining about his job and his financial situation. He asks Alfred about how he makes money, because Alfred seemingly just sits around the apartment most of the time smoking weed and playing games, and that in fact is what he's doing here. Alfred says he makes his money selling drugs, and in fact he boasts about how easy of a life it is, and how he can do what he's doing by like selling drugs.
Yeah, and Darius says that I can't remember who says it's a lucrative business, but Darius says that it's easy because people are addicted to drugs, which is yet another example, which I think is like yet another example of these characters not really caring or not feeling like they're like they have the time or the like free energy, like they don't have the luxury of caring about other people when they have to like look out for number one. So they're like, oh yeah, like selling drugs to addicts, like that's gonna hurt them, but I need to look out for myself, I need to make money for myself. So they just like kind of put it out of mind and don't really think about the larger implications of like
just about everything Darius says strikes me as funny, and that line seemed funny as well.
He has a lot more funny lines in this episode too.
Yeah, it was just kind of he's saying that sort of matter of factly, but I
think it definitely is matter of fact for these characters. It's like and then also in that scene, building on that point, like Darius at the end of the scene says like I think there's a bullet in here or something, like he's got the gun and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a bullet in here, and Ern just goes, good to know. So he just goes, or he's just like, noted. Like it's completely like normal, like just like violence is just like kind of surrounding these characters at all times, and they're totally desensitized to it,
So let me give the context to that, because that I really laughed out loud when he said that. So they're planning an upcoming drug deal with Mexicans. I think they even described them as Mexicans at one point. Anyway, Ern is concerned. He advises Alfred to use more discretion since he is now a recognizable person and he's gaining some fame. And so Ern's concerned, obviously, about him getting in trouble again. Darius is in the kitchen, sort of in the background at an ironing board, and he's ironing like a dollar bill or something, which like kind of is goofy. You think he's ironing his underwear or something, and he picks up it's a dollar bill. But anyway, then he like while Ern and Alfred are talking about finances, you see Darius with a box of cereal, and he pulls a gun out of the cereal. Like I don't know if he had hidden it there or what, but then he's like looking in the box, and he's like, oh, by the way, guys, I think there may be a bullet in there. like if you guys happen to have a bowl of cereal, beware.
Yeah.
So that scene is actually setting up the drug deal with the Mexicans, but but before we get there, we cut to a scene with Van in her apartment with Ern sitting on the couch, and Van is complaining about the parenting situation and how Ern needs to be more helpful. And this continues on throughout the whole episode, and it's kind of like the overriding thing between Van and Ern is the parenting situation.
Is it just me, or does Van seem like doing pretty well financially? I'm just like looking.
Good question.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm just kind of like looking. Yeah, well, we know where it comes from. I don't know if I should say it. I don't feel like it's like that big a deal, but I guess it is technically a spoiler. But she seems to be doing like kind of surprisingly well for herself, considering she has a kid and is frequently housing. And I guess we see Ern like eating cereal, so I don't know, maybe he's causing a little bit of extra expenses, but probably not much. But given the the setting of the show, like I'm just like looking around her apartment, and like it seems like nicely furnished. It's got a pretty decent like square footage. Like she seems to be doing pretty well.
But where is her income coming from?
I can say, I don't know.
Do we find out
spoilers
later?
I guess, but she's a kindergarten teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know that at this point in the.
We don't know that at this point. No, that's not a super important detail. But I guess sorry for anybody who.
Sorry for the spoiler.
Yeah.
I honestly. Yeah, well, we'll have to come back.
But
to
watching this back and knowing that she's a kindergarten teacher with a daughter. In Atlanta, I was just like, seems like she, I guess maybe she's just like working her ass off.
I don't see her as like like that wealthy. I mean, she's in a nice apartment.
Well, yeah. I didn't see her as that wealthy either.
Was.
I think it's just like I was just like looking around her apartment. And I just like saw decorations around, and I was like, huh, yeah. Like I don't know. Maybe that's the other thing. The other thing about that is that like Van is like frequently dresses up in nice dresses, and she will like do her hair and all this stuff, and it kind of becomes apparent that she like with all characters in this show, that kind of like the way you present yourself and the way that other people see you is going to have an effect on how successful you are, and that's kind of like in terms of having more Instagram followers can like help you get connections, or people will just kind of like care about you more, or in the more direct example of like Paperboy, where putting on this image of being the thug is like what people are listening to his music for. So that's a much more direct link towards his monetization. But like, so I think that's another kind of ongoing theme of this show. But like with Van, she presents as this like as being more wealthy than she is. And so I guess possibly like what I'm noticing is just kind of like her doing that effectively. Maybe she just like went to some thrift stores and found some like house decorations that look really fancy but only cost like $2, Well, and that's, at this I don't know, maybe if that's some kind of character building for her.
I mean, at this point in episode 3, I mean, I don't think we have a whole lot of details about her financial situation. She
no,
has
we don't. Not at this point.
Like disdain that Earn, is not contributing to the rent.
That was the other thing that I was thinking about, is that like she talks about Earn and like how seemingly desperate she is for financial aid, especially with taking care of Lottie. Even though like she kind of puts on this image of being financially stable, which I guess is not really that false. True.
Yeah, her character, I find like at this point, I try not to spoil anything. But
a lot of this analysis is coming with. A lot of this kind of analysis is coming from the perspective of like. A lot of this analysis is coming from the perspective of knowing kind of where her, of knowing more about her character and knowing partially like where it goes. And I'm just kind of observing like, if you're paying attention to the right things, that you can kind of, you can put together a more holistic image of who Van is based on little details that were apparent even from as early as episode 3.
All right. Well, we'll have a chance to come back to her for sure.
Oh yeah, certainly.
There's some episodes that are focused on her specifically. But where we're at this point is the conflict that's arising between Earn and Van regarding the parenting. But Earn wants to smooth things over with Vanessa. He ends up apologizing, about whatever lack of effort that he's been making. They end up lying in bed together and have like a pleasant exchange, Earn can actually make her laugh, but he asks her out for dinner. He wants to make things nice. He says, "Can I take you out to dinner?" The next day they have another sort of back and forth where Van calls him a corny ass guy. She says, "You're lucky I like corny." Actually, I think it's Earn who accuses her of liking corny ass guys, and she says, "Well, you're lucky you're a corny ass guy." So they end up having like a pleasant thing. But then it's like cut to Earn in an empty bed. Like she must have got up and left. And he's by himself. He picks up his phone. He looks at his bank account balance and sort of moans about the lack of funds. He calls a guy who I think his name is Hand Dog, or I don't know. He described it. I couldn't clearly understand his name, but this was somebody he's asking advice for a restaurant. The guy tells him to go to this place that has a happy hour menu, and that Earn should be able to afford this place, and that he probably has enough money. I don't know who that character was, but I found him a little disturbing. I mean, he was talking about this restaurant that he took his hose to, and like he's like clearly like kind of a like thuggish well, maybe thug's not the right word, but he's like chauvinistic, say is probably the right word. He's talking about women in a pretty derogatory way. And when the conversation between Ern and this guy ends, the camera reveals that there's a young lady driving in the car with this guy. He's in the passenger seat with the phone to his head. But then the guy yells at the woman, accusing her of listening in on his conversation, like she had any like choice in the matter, because she's sitting right next to the guy. So I don't know. Like that character was just kind of like, it bumped to be like, I don't know if there was a point in putting that guy in the scene, but that he was clearly like a jerk. And maybe like the woman behind the counter in the first scene, this is just some character that adds to the sort of complexity of Atlanta.
Yeah, that's part of what I think the appeal of this show is that you just kind of like, the city of Atlanta feels like a real living, breathing place, and that wouldn't be possible if you didn't just like, sometimes you just meet somebody for like 30 seconds and you like never see them again, but they have kind of a impressing personality that you remember.
Yeah. So Ern is now planning the big night out. He puts a bottle of champagne in the refrigerator and he says, quote, "I might just win tonight." So,
what did you think that meant?
Well,
I was confused.
He had that.
It comes back at the end of the episode.
He had like that exchange with the guy on the bus about people being winners and how.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That was kind of the only connection I made, was he had made reference to winners and losers, and that maybe he was a loser who was just meant to serve the winner. So I think that's really all I took from that, was like, maybe this is his chance, at least for one night, to be a winner.
Yeah, I didn't think about that like link between the two.
So now cut to Alfred and Darius cleaning their handguns. This is a pretty nice exchange too. Darius is talking about his gun, which he has named Daddy, and Alfred does. There's a lot of these things where Alfred looks at Darius like, "What the heck are you talking about, man?" And he's like, "This is weird." And Darius then like, in his only way that Darius can do it, he's like, "Well, maybe I should change the name to Poppy," which I guess Al thinks is inappropriate, some sort of cultural appropriation of a Hispanic term, which I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I don't know what you think about the word poppy, but
well, I know padre is Spanish for dad.
Yeah, padre, but poppy. I mean, there's also there's a baseball player named Big Poppy, who's a Hispanic guy. I don't know if that's what they're saying.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I've kind of forgotten a lot of the Spanish that I learned in high school, but like, I mean, I don't know, all types of different languages and cultures. We just like come up with random names. Like we call, like in English, we call like grandmas and grandmas like mama and and I don't know.
But this will come back.
I have a friend whose grandpa he calls him Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the man of the house.
So this will come back. I'll come back to this at the end about the cultural appropriation thing. But Darius challenges Alfred, what he describes as his perversion of the word daddy, as stemming from a fear of mortality. This is again like I'm laughing at Darius for like being sort of the mystic or the spiritual voice in this show, and at the same time I'm like, he makes you think like, okay, what is exactly he talking about here? Like, does Alfred have? Why would Alfred have a fear of mortality, or does Alfred have daddy issues somehow? And I think that will come back in future.
Yeah,
episodes.
I'll be honest. Like, these are the kinds of interactions that like I don't really like. I don't pay them too much mind, because like I feel like when I do think about them a lot, like I kind of just go in circles, like what is he really talking about? And ultimately I feel like the appeal of it is just kind of like that. It's just like a Darius line.
Yeah.
It's just like a Darius thing to say.
It's
like
really clever.
Yeah, and at this point in the show, like I feel like our characters are really well established, and or like I think like episode 3 does a lot of things, but it one of the main things it does is I think this is where like the relationships between the characters are like set in stone. Like past this point, like I think there was I can't remember if there was like implication that there was financial struggles between Van and Earn, but I think now we know for sure that like Van wants Earn to keep his job at the airport or like try to find a new job that's more stable financially. We know like explicitly what kind of work Al and Darius are doing to get their money. You know, we get a better impression by the end of the episode what like Earn's plans are for the future, what he wants to do with this whole like music management stuff. Like I feel like this is kind of like where we like the 3-episode test would work really well for this show. Like people will like watch 3 episodes to like figure out the premise of a show before deciding whether or not they want to like drop it or like keep watching. And it's like if you watch 3 episodes into Atlanta, it's like you should have a firm understanding of who these characters are. You know, like I'm rewatching the show, we're both rewatching it, and at least I know I'm noticing little instances of characterization that like make me think, you know, oh, this is the same character. Like they're a fully fleshed out person even from the get-go, right? Mm-hmm. But you know, speaking from if I go back to my perspective from the first time that I was watching this show, I'm definitely like still getting a feel for who these characters are, what their tendencies are, what their relationships to one another are. And I think at this point, and this also, I kind of mentioned this last time, is that what happened in episode 2, I remembered that happening like significantly later in season 1. And I think that that's because I felt like I had learned so much about the characters like by season 3. Like by season 3, I felt like, okay, I understand who these characters are. The groundwork has been laid, and then everything that like they kind of do, like the things that happen in episodes like 2 and 3 are like, I think of those as happening after I had already learned who the characters were. And so I don't know, maybe like in my own head, I like kind of placed the events after the like characterization chronologically, even though like they happen simultaneously. And that's, you know, especially apparent like going back through and watching, you know, only 3 episodes in, there's already like so much to
this one definitely still has like some character development stuff happening. But you're right, it's kind of like solidifying. You kind of know what's going on. Yeah. There's there's some there's some episodes that have heavier social commentary attached to them, and some of them like where you're completely in a different time, and we'll get to some of those episodes, but this one I found to be really focusing in on like it was kind of a binary thing where there was the Earn and Van relationship issue that's really starting to take center stage, and then there's the Darius and Alfred relationship and the drug dealing, which is a little bit more comical, but sort of like setting up this relationship between Al and Darius as like the leader and the sidekick. There's like a long history of literature where there's like this buddy,
I guess so,
buddy story where the one guy is like the devoted sidekick, and that's what I saw like clearly emerge here was Darius and Al's relationship. It's pretty unique, but like Al, you know, unlike Al's relationship with a lot of other people, which can be kind of hostile at times, and like you were saying, Al is kind of, or Paperboy anyway, his image is kind of more of like the rapper, you know, thug life. He acts differently with Darius. Even though he sometimes he doesn't understand what Darius is talking about, and nobody does, but he treats him like his his trusty sidekick.
Nobody does.
All right, so now
I get what you're talking about. Yeah.
So where are we? Okay, so Al gets a message
that the
drug deal is on.
Yeah, we get to the scene where they change, where there's a change of plans. They initially are going to do the drug dealing. I don't know, I can't remember. It's like under a bridge or in a back alley or something. But this, the guy who they're going to do the deal with comes over and he says, "Hey, change of plans, follow me." And this is where we get to a really cool shot, which I was talking to you about, or I was alluding to you about before we started recording the episode, which is this really cool drone shot following the two cars as they drive on a swervy road through the woods. And it made me think about the drone shots that are used in this show, because they do them pretty frequently. It's kind of like a iconic thing in this show, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
But I was really paying attention to what is the drone shot doing for the scene in this situation. And I think it was kind of revealing about how this show uses drone shots in general, which is that using drone shots is a way to pull the camera super far away from the characters who you're focusing on, while also not giving away the horizon line. It allows you to make the characters appear very small because you're literally above them and you're also pulling super far away from them, so they're taking up less real estate on the screen. But they're also, but you also can't really tell where they are in space. In the first episode, there's a lot of drone shots that are kind of panning over just a basketball court. And it's you can't really tell where the basketball court is, but you get this impression that it's just one little cell in the giant organism that is the city of Atlanta, even though you can't see the entire city until the title logo or whatever comes on screen. And then you get that big wide shot that actually looks upwards and you see the horizon line or the skyline of Atlanta. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air where and I think that Atlanta uses those kinds of drone shots pretty frequently to give off that same effect of unease and the characters feeling small and out of their element, as they are, literally out of their element. They're being, taken from the area where they were planning on doing the drug trade to now this, in the middle of the woods where a pretty freaky thing happens to them.
I don't know Atlanta that well, but there must
the actual
must be wooded,
city, you mean?
Wooded areas around it, because
I'm sure there must be.
Most of this,
I've never been there.
Most of this thing takes place in the inner city. But yeah, there's a couple episodes where you end up in the woods. And I mean, I've been to Atlanta a couple times, and it's a kind of a big sprawling city. So I'm sure there's plenty of wooded areas nearby.
I was gonna say, I wonder if this show was shot and recorded in Atlanta, or if it was recorded somewhere else.
Well, there's definitely some scenes.
Oh yeah, there's definitely the drone shots and stuff that show images, but I wonder if if the neighborhoods, just the individual streets that they're recording on,
question.
I feel that'd be a really cool bit of texture to add to the show, to really see the real even just details, seeing the cracks in the sidewalk. I feel that kind of thing adds a lot of texture to the show.
That could be some bonus coverage,
and
if we dive into
analyzing Google Maps, trying to find the exact locations where they recorded the show.
What do you call them? The platinum level Patreon subscribers?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe.
All right, so we're going back and forth between this scene at this RV, this sort of makeshift campsite where the drug deal is going to go down, and we're going back and forth between that and the restaurant where Ern and Vanessa are. And I skipped over one little scene where they're trying to find street parking, and they encounter this guy who appears to be a parking lot attendant, but he's really just asking for what you might call protection money. So if you park your car in this shady side street, this guy's going to look over your car, and he makes some funny comments about his lightsaber. But anyway, they end up in the restaurant, while Al and Darius are out in the woods with these drug dealers, who we hear the first reference to these drug dealers as the Amigos. And so again, this I think
they call themselves just the Migos.
Is it Migos or Amigos?
I'm pretty sure they're just the Migos.
Okay, well, I mean, it's
the four Migos.
It again had me thinking that these are Hispanic people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it was kind of surprising that when they walk up onto this campsite where this RV is parked, that there's all but one of them in the shot are black men, young black men.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before. I'm like absolutely terrible at distinguishing nationalities, and ethnic backgrounds, I guess. But I got the impression that that maybe they were mixed. I know the one guy says the N-word, so like that's kind of and nobody reacts to it. Like they treat it like, oh yeah, that's normal. So and also I think he also, again, I'm terrible at distinguishing nationalities, but from my perspective, he looked African American. But they're calling themselves the Four Amigos, and like they kind of, and I can't remember if it was him who says that, like the fourth guy, like the happy-go-lucky cheery guy, said that like that was his cousin. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. And I can't remember. I can't remember who said.
In the scene.
Yeah, he shows up later, but like I can't remember which one of them was like, "Oh yeah, that guy's my cousin." So like those two are definitely related.
Quaid,
I can't remember if it was the first guy who talked, the guy who like shot the dude that they like dropped out of
that guy you're describing. I think they said his name was Quaid. I may be getting that wrong, but they didn't. You don't really get names other than. Actually, you do get a couple names, but they're just in passing. But this guy, we'll call him Quaid. He seems to be.
This guy also named his gun, by the way.
He what?
He named his gun. Yeah, he said when they like released the guy, and then he was like, here, he says, hand me Percy, and the guy gives him his like sniper rifle.
That was like a little
shotgun?
callback to
I don't know guns.
Scene with Darius and
that was kind of funny.
But yeah.
I wonder if that's a reference to something.
Another just sort of tangent. The guy was wearing sunglasses at night.
In the middle of the night, in the woods.
I've seen that before in other movies, and it always
I think that's cool. I think wearing sunglasses when it's like entirely inappropriate, that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, one little other bit of information, which we find out as Al and Darius are getting out of the car, is Darius has forgotten the key to the handcuffs, which he has the suitcase, which presumably has money in it, which is going to be, they're going to hand off the money and get drugs. But he
bartered.
He handcuffs because he wanted to seem more professional. He handcuffed the suitcase to himself. And when they get out of the car at the campsite, he's like, hey, did you remember to bring the key? And Al just like looks at him and shakes his head no. And not like there's this issue which they don't talk about, but it's like continues to bother Darius throughout the next couple scenes, is how are they going to hand over the suitcase, I guess is the intent, to give him the money. But anyway, they walk up onto the campsite. This young black man, Quaid, who is identified as the leader, you kind of realize that. He initially says, well, wait a minute. He greets Al and Darius, but he says, wait a minute, I have to take care of something first. And they open up the storage compartment of the RV, and this half naked black guy falls out. He's only wearing underwear. And the man is like clearly under distress. He's pleading with Quaid, and Quaid says, "Hey, put your clothes on. It's cold out here." And like, so there's some weird torture going on of some poor guy, and that these drug dealers apparently are going to do something to this guy, which we don't find out immediately because we cut back to the restaurant where Van and Ern are, and
I'm sure it was like at least partially intentional that like there's this like really crazy, almost surreal, dramatic sequence going on, then like contrasted with just Ern and Van at dinner.
Yeah, it's definitely like it works. It totally works. Like the back and forth, but it's really like going. There's short scenes, and you're
I like how the episodes are like shorter. The episodes are shorter in season 1. They get like longer in season 2, and I feel like both are good, but I do like that season 1 kind of like keeps it snappy. Yeah,
I like the sort of contrast between there's both scenes have tension in them, right? Darius and Al are nervous.
Yeah, just in like very different ways,
Yeah, but then the scene with Ern and Van in the restaurant it's Ern is stressed out about his ability to pay for this meal. So we find out immediately when this overly friendly white female waitress shows up at their table that they no longer have the happy hour menu. And the information that Ern got from this guy in the car was false. That he's now faced with paying for like this expensive seafood dinner, which the eager waitress is like pushing on Van, and Van is like, "Oh, that sounds good." And you see Ern's face, and his eyes just get wide, like, "Oh shit, she's ordering food that I can't pay for." And Ern doesn't want to tell Van about his lack of funds in his bank account, so he's squirming at the restaurant dinner table while Al and Darius are squirming in front of this guy Quaid, who you can tell us what happens at the campsite now.
They shoot him.
They release him and then shoot him. So like the guy is dressed. When we get back to the campsite, he now has his clothes on, and this Quaid guy goes, "Okay, you can go that way," and he points to the woods like, "You'll find your way," And the guy's like crying and desperate, and he's sort of stumbling away, and then Quaid gets Percy out and takes 2 shots to take him down. He shoots him in the back.
I wonder if there's any significance with the 2 shots. I don't know. Something about the first missed shot, then the second shot that just one shots him.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time assigning anything to that. But
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, I mean, these are supposed to be drug
really
dealers.
Just bizarre, surreal scene.
I mean, if you know anything about guns, like it would be a handgun that the drug dealer would use. I mean, a hunting rifle, like really, the guy.
That's the kind of thing. Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like the whole hunting, illegally hunting humans for sport or whatever is kind of, I don't know if that's a trope, but I feel like I've seen that other places in movies and TV shows that's just meant to characterize a villain as just absolutely not having any regard for human value or not seeing not seeing other people. Well, I don't know, because I don't know. I feel like maybe they say later
drug deal or something
they say later that they were like, "Hey, sorry." They're talking to Al and Darius, and they're like, "Hey, sorry, we had to do that. We just had to make sure you were straight." So I think that was supposed to be he crossed them in some way, and so they were punishing him, but they were also making an example out of him to Al and Darius.
Yeah. They were using that guy to scare Al and Darius.
Yeah. That's my impression anyway.
But it was a weird use of
very weird,
a hunting rifle scene. So I'm not sure if that connects to anything else other than these guys are bad dudes. They're drug dealers. And it was definitely in contrast to that sort of happy-go-lucky Hispanic guy who shows up in the RV while they're sitting there.
Yeah, I wonder if he's aware of
that's right.
The hard shit that's going on.
He wasn't,
because he doesn't show up until afterwards.
Shot. So maybe.
Is he? So that kind of begs the question. Is he aware of the way in which they're killing people, and he's totally okay with that, and he's happy about it and doesn't care, or is he just blissfully ignorant? Either way, it's a weird situation to imagine.
Definitely happy to be with his,
especially for just these random characters that are introduced all of a sudden in one episode.
So cut back to a close up of Ern, who this is a sort of an intimate shot of Ern sort of sharing his feelings about how everyone should have the freedom to discover what they want out of life. And this was this scene kind of jarred. Well, this was no longer Ern being anxious and squirming. Now this was I think part of what ultimately is the message from the Ern Van relationship thing is Ern is trying to communicate to Van that, he wants the freedom to pursue something, and he's trying to tell her that this is gonna be good for Lottie and for you and for all of us if you let me do this. And so there is like a little loving interaction here where Van sort of expresses understanding, and she's like, yeah, I kind of get it, and but she returns to the topic of parenting, and she reminds Ern that he has a daughter that needs him to be in her life, and that's what he has to focus on. And so she gets up. Van then gets up and walks away from the table, and the waitress shows up with the check, and Ern takes his frustration out on her because she's been pushing these expensive ticket items on the meal, and so he sort of snaps at her, and when he sees the check, he's like, oh shit, I can't pay for this, and so then we go back to the campsite and back to the drug deal, and now Quaid and Al are sitting face to face in the camper. Actually, Al and Darius on one side, and Quaid and one of the other gangs. Actually, I guess it's just Quaid, but now we see Quaid is sort of looking at Al like he recognizing his celebrity and asking him about the arrest and the shooting. And Quaid is under the impression that Al was actually involved in a murder, which sort of impresses him. And like he's only curious about why he's like there at all because he's already out of jail. But at this point, Al and Darius are both still really nervous. But the tone sort of starts to shift, like in that. Quaid and the other drug dealers are now like expressing like their curiosity about Paperboy, and they're kind of fans. So Al's phone goes off while they're sitting there talking, and Ern gets on the phone and asks Al for money to cover the expense of the restaurant, and Al is sort of immediately agrees just because he wants to get him off the phone. So here's where the two sort of scenes kind of come together, and Ern fortunately gets bailed out by Al, who funds his meal. I don't know if there's anything more to take out of that. I mean, the thing about Al's celebrity is sort of reintroduced here, and how the gangsters or the drug dealers in this case sort of look up to him now because of what he was involved in. Not only his rap music, but the fact that he was involved in a crime, or apparently, or at least they think he was involved in murdering somebody.
Which it's still kind of ambiguous, like,
right.
And it remains ambiguous, intentionally so.
So before Ern and Van leave the restaurant, Van notices that Ern did not tip the waitress, so she adds something onto the bill, which kind of left me wondering whether or not now Ern even had enough money, even after Al, forwarded him $20 or whatever it was.
I'm inclined to say no, because at the end of the episode, he's calling this
he ends up canceling
bank, the Georgia bank, and saying I'd like to report a credit card stolen or a debit card stolen or something.
So they and then one little comedic thing that happens there as they're leaving the restaurant, you see the guy who we formerly thought was the parking lot attendant guy come in with his lightsaber, telling some other customer that their car was being towed, which was funny. And actually, I thought it was a sort of confirmation that guy was actually doing what he said he was going to do, even though it was not a legit business, I guess. But, all right, so back at the campsite, Quaid apologizes for scaring Al and Darius. This is what Chris was saying, like apparently, at least part of what was going on with the shooting was an attempt to scare Al and Darius and to make sure that they weren't being taken advantage of, I guess, in the drug deal. But here's where this happy person shows up, who's clearly more of a Hispanic background, and he's even more starstruck when he sees Al, who he recognizes as Paperboy, and he tells him he's a fan of his music. And Darius, at this point, they're like, after a sort of pleasant exchange between Al and this Hispanic guy, they're like, okay, let's get this drug deal done. And then Darius, after squirming about this briefcase thing in the handcuff, he admits, I forgot the key, I left it behind. And I'll admit, at this point, after I watched this the first time, I was like under the impression that they needed the key to open the briefcase, and I don't know even at this point that I interpreted this the right way, because I think this was meant to be comedy, right? So they walk out of.
I think so. Yeah.
They walk out of the RV, and Quaid says, "Oh, I can solve this problem. We'll keep the money and you keep the briefcase." And I was like, what just happened? Because the whole time I was watching that, I was thinking Darius is nervous because he doesn't think he can pay them the money for the drugs. And I don't know, you tell me, was the comedy there supposed to be Darius's misunderstanding of his own handcuff, or was it just comedic because it was a simple problem to solve? You just open the briefcase, give him the money, and then you keep the briefcase.
Honestly, I don't know.
You'll have to watch that again and tell me what you think, because
I'm still like,
I scratched my head.
Darius, this whole thing was like, Darius's whole thing was kind of going on in the background this episode. Like, he got the gun out of the Cheerio box or the cereal box or whatever, and he's just kind of setting it up, and then he's just kind of doing his own. I mean, I think I said this earlier. Darius is the main character of his own TV show that just so happens to overlap with Atlanta a lot. He's just kind of doing his own thing. He's got his own plan, and Al is just hey, what are you doing? And he's just I'm handcuffing this to my wrist so that it's professional. And Al's just all right.
Yeah.
He's just kind of whatever. You do your thing.
It was funny.
Yeah, either way, it is funny. I myself can't make much more sense out of it than you.
Did you, in your mind, thinking back on that, were you assuming that this was a way for him to protect the money from somebody taking the money from him?
I guess.
But clearly, in the end, it wasn't, because the suitcase was, the briefcase was unlocked. It was only the handcuff on his wrist that was stuck.
I mean, they initially intended to do the trade not in the woods, but on the street. I don't know if that would have anything to do with it.
Yeah, well, our listeners,
maybe they were intending for it. Maybe they were intending for it to be a much shorter interaction than it ended up being. They intended to just meet the guys on the side of the road. Maybe they intended to just meet the guys on the side of the road. They would be here's your drugs, and they'd be here's your briefcase, and they would be whoa, you're in a suit and it's handcuffed, that's all professional. He'd be yep, sure is. And then they'd drive off, and it would leave a good impression maybe, but then they ended up getting roped into this whole situation that takes place in the woods. I don't really know.
Well, we're gonna have to ask for input.
That's
from
my
our,
best.
Our,
yeah, that's my best guess.
Where was the comedy in that scene where because you're to assume that the drug deal was completed, right? They took the money, and then
it was.
And then Al got the drug. Al
Certainly.
And Darius got the drugs. So I don't know. It was. When I watched it the second time, I was like, oh wait, I think I get it now. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be Darius was nervous really for no reason about the handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they leave the campsite, sort of scratching their heads about this Hispanic guy and why they're called the Four Amigos, or how they're really related. I think they were identified as cousins. I think Quaid and the happy Hispanic guy were identified as cousins. But it was a bizarre sort of shot of the four of them standing there with the one Hispanic guy like puts his arms around them and says, "We're the Four Amigos. We're inseparable." So
yeah,
this to me, like after watching it the second time, I thought there was a callback to this cultural appropriation thing where Al was questioning whether the word poppy was appropriate to use, like as a black man, like you're not allowed to use a Hispanic term or something, maybe. But then this scene where there's like a Hispanic guy with his arms around three other black guys, was kind of in contrast to that. Did you get that at all? Maybe I'm overthinking that.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe. Honestly, like, I literally just don't even remember the nationalities of the four guys. It was a dark scene.
No, I think visually,
I didn't quite catch all of their features. I just I don't know. I didn't classify them all as being in the same family or anything like that, except for the two that are like cousins. I don't know. Maybe I didn't think so much about that one.
Well, I'm sure
there's something there.
There's three guys. Well, Quaid doesn't have as much hair, but like two of the four guys have obvious dreadlocks. I mean, they're definitely stereotypically or maybe physically looking African American. The Hispanic guy with the big smile on his face is, he's got a beard and he's definitely looks like Hispanic. And then Quaid, Quaid looks like he kind of looks like Tupac or somebody. Anyway, there's definitely a sort of a recurring thing that goes on throughout Atlanta, where like the different cultures, they purposely like put people in sort of unexpected situations with respect to race and cultural.
Yeah, I mean that's what the show is all about.
They break the stereotypes.
Yeah, and I will say, I do know. I'm not like claiming to know exactly what's going on in the writer's head or what they were intending by any particular scene, but I was listening to some interviews that they did at a con or something, where the cast of Atlanta were all talking to a crowd. They were being asked questions. They were talking about their creative process, and they were saying that like a lot of the writing process is just kind of like them having conversation. Like the way that they made it sound was that it's not very structured. It's just kind of like whatever pops into their head and whatever feels like it fits the vibe of the show, if that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Although they did talk about like season 1 seeming to have more of like a message or an attitude, like a definitive attitude, which I can definitely sense, especially like when we get into seasons like 2 and 3. There are differences between those in season 1 that I think we'll end up pointing out when we get there. But like with the overall writing style of the show, I definitely think that the way that they've written this show results in some scenes and sequences that kind of like, I don't want to say that they don't mean anything, but maybe that they're like that you're not meant to have like an aha moment upon seeing them. It's just sort of supposed to make you think about, the interaction that just happened in front of you, and like it's just kind of supposed to stick in your head or just kind of like be self-evident as an idea that somebody came up with, and maybe it's interesting insofar as like how, a culture could feasibly allow a situation like this to come about, and not necessarily that like the characters involved in what their actions are send a theme or a moral or some kind of commentary about like real life people like directly, I guess.
I think that thing that I keep coming back to,
maybe I just like said a bunch of nothing, but I feel like that's kind of like partially the attitude of the show. Who knows?
Well, let's see if I can express this point. I mean, the thing that I keep coming back to as a white man, and I guess it's obvious that I'm speaking as a white man if I haven't admitted that already. Like these scenes, like the one I'm describing here, where there's three black men and one Hispanic guy with his arms around him, and I think I don't think it's like incorrect to say that they're obviously African Americans, but that they do this repeatedly in Atlanta, where they put people of different races in situations where you're forced to see it, and you're forced to say, how should I interpret this, like from the point of view of the black man? So this is me talking as a white person saying, how would a black person view this scene? I think it's really interesting to see it, to think about that, because the audience for this show is probably just as much targeted for a black audience as it is a white audience. But I think it can go both ways.
I definitely get the impression that I definitely get that impression that like it's kind of made with like both cultures in mind.
And like I don't know if you remember the scene that I'm describing, but like, how would a black person, like, this is really like maybe inappropriate for me to even pose the question, but how would a black person view that scene? Like,
I couldn't answer myself, but yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested to hear like how if there are any, African American audience members, like how do you interpret that? Yeah, like I think part of the show, like having that kind of open-ended philosophy about, possibly how it came about and how it might be intended to be interpreted is meant to invite as many different interpretations of a particular scene as possible, as to, get a conversation going and just get people talking about their different lived experiences.
And I'm going to be asking this same question with respect to a lot of the upcoming scenes in other episodes, but yeah, I mean, like in this specific scene that I'm talking about, Al just got done like asking like these guys, like, who are you guys, or what do you call yourselves? And they said the four amigos. And like, I don't know, like if I'm a black man watching this,
oh, you mean
would I find it odd that they identify as amigos? Like, that's definitely
I don't know, maybe
Spanish term, but like they seem to be a gang, and even though they look African American, and I guess they are African American, they identify as amigos in like Hispanic.
I'm like 90% sure that it is Migos, not amigos, but I mean, still, it's a clearly Hispanic.
He said four amigos. I'm pretty sure he said amigos.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could have sworn he said just Migos, but I don't know.
You might be right, but there's also there's kind of a reference point. Isn't there a movie or something called The Three Amigos?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember if that's. I think that's.
Is it The Three Compañeros?
Oh yeah, maybe. Well, there's definitely
I
think that's movie called The Three Amigos. So that's where my mind went when this guy said we're the four amigos, like, and that would be comedy. That would be comedic in itself, because the three amigos.
I'm thinking of
guys.
The Three Caballeros, which is that like Donald Duck cartoon that I watched.
What's it called?
It's called The Three Caballeros.
Caballeros is cowboys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I think so.
Anyway, you understand like what I think the creators are doing here is purposely, putting the audience member in these situations, and what's really cool, and I think is what's really creative here, is that it works for both a white person like myself as the viewer, and I think it works.
I would imagine that
for a black.
I would imagine that there's definitely something to think about in both perspectives. Yeah. I would imagine.
So, in the sort of meta view of it is the viewer themselves, like coming to the realization that people from different races might view this scene differently, and where you stand on, or how open-minded you are, or tolerant, or whatever, whatever your perspectives might be on race might come into play as to how you view this particular scene. And there's different levels of looking at it too. Like, these are bad guys, right? This one guy just murdered somebody in the woods.
Yeah.
And he's an African American, like identifying as Hispanic. What does that say about the person themselves? What does it say about the culture? Or there's just a lot to think about there. And so I really like the way they do this throughout Atlanta, because I think it puts a lot in the mind of the viewers in that regard. All right, one more important scene, and this is kind of the climax. Well, not climax, but the scene that sort of brings us back to the primary focus about Ern and Van's relationship. And so Ern and Van return from the restaurant and are back in Van's apartment, and Van is still talking about parenting as they enter the scene. Van insults Ern's choice to pursue a career in rap music, and then Ern sort of returns fire and insults Van in her interest in opening a fashion boutique, I think is what he said. And that just pisses off Van, who slams the bedroom door and shuts Ern out. So Ern's standing in the hallway, and there's a nice shot of Ern sort of with just a plain door, and he's standing at his side talking to himself. And it kind of visually, it looks like a soliloquy, like an onstage performance of somebody standing, speaking solemnly. Ern is saying that he knows he has a daughter, but he doesn't want to have to compromise what he wants out of life. He sounds really solemn, and he's trying to convince Van again, like, I can provide for her. I can do this. Me. And he says at the end, if you can't do this out of love for me, do it out of love for her, meaning Lottie, the daughter. So it seems like a really heartfelt statement. And, he's making another effort. This is at least the second time in this episode alone that he's tried to say something, poignant and heartfelt. Van opens the door and just announces, "That's some dumbass shit." And it just kind of shoots him down. And he's just like defeated, which is, again, that's also a recurring thing, is Ern being defeated by, various people. So you're kind of left feeling sorry for Ern for having poured his heart out in a way and trying to convince Van. But I will say that, after watching it a second time and just trying to think about it from Van's perspective, she's not entirely wrong. He is kind of making an argument to skip out on his daughter.
I was going to say, like, do you think that Ern is being unreasonable here? Because what he's asking is, let me quit my job and pursue this, like, music career. And, careers in the arts are historically unstable, and it might not even pan out. He's basically saying, let me try to get Paperboy famous. And I mean, he's already kind of well known, but, like, let me try to propel him to a level of fame where I'll be able to provide. And that's a risky move. And is making such risky moves a responsible decision when you have a child to take care of? I don't know. I mean, one can argue that if Ern truly believes that he definitely will be able to provide for Lottie by doing this, then maybe you can kind of absolve him of like a guilty conscience. Maybe you can say it may not have been a smart decision, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Ern is a bad person. And I think that is the case. I think he's genuine in what he's saying, but in terms of, like, what the audience can take away from it. I think there's definitely like a bit of criticism to be said towards to be dealt towards Ern, to say like, yeah, you know, maybe he's got his heart in the right place, but you know, kids got to eat.
And there's definitely a background just in the couple episodes leading up to this. We know something about Ern's background. He dropped out of Princeton. His parents,
yeah, he's also kind of got a history of not.
Him.
Yeah, he's also kind of got a history of just like being poor and not like stable and stuff, and not being a very dependable person. So there's definitely that aspect, which like adds to Van's sort of fear that that his music management plans won't follow through the way that he says they will.
And I think, you know, again, returning to the sort of larger cultural themes, you know, this is just, I'm sure this is like way too familiar for a lot of you know, black families. You know, given what most
I would say definitely like poor families. And I mean, the thing like class is very much like influenced by race, so it's definitely, there's a lot of intersection there. But I'm sure that a lot of like poor you know, individuals can also relate to this kind of thing, where like your livelihood really can depend on like it kind of on taking that chance.
Well, I'm talking specifically about like single parent homes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's definitely like a contributing factor.
And you know, the idea of pursuing a career in rap music, I mean, there's some things that are very specifically pointed at the black community here. And you know, it's not specific to the black community by any means. I mean, I guess people pursuing careers in rap music is largely black, but like the single parenting thing, I mean, that scene, you know, of a man who wants, you know, he's expressing a desire to do what he wants to do. You know, everybody should have the freedom to get what they want out of life. Yeah, that's great, and that's sort of high-minded, I guess. And you know, you want everybody to have that freedom, but you know, there's a small child involved here, and there is like an overriding responsibility that you should have for that child. And the idea that Ern, you know, he's saying the right things, but like his background, like what the audience knows about his character up to this point should raise suspicion. And yeah, I mean that's got to be a fairly common sort of exchange that particularly single mothers have with their deadbeat spouses, or maybe not even spouses, but the fathers that abandon so many children. You know, Ern is a lot more sympathetic probably than the majority of people that walk out on their children. And it does, I'm exaggerating when I say Ern is suggesting he's going to walk out, but from Van's point of view, that's probably what it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it ends.
See that.
Actually, sorry, I cut you off. If you have anything else to add.
Oh no, I was just saying I can see that. Yeah.
So the episode ends with Ern on the, I guess it's like a fire escape, metal railing or something, with a bottle of champagne. The champagne that he had chilled earlier in the scene, he's now drinking alone, calling the credit card company to report his card stolen. So he's apparently trying to get out of any debt that he may have owed from that restaurant experience that he had. So that's where it ends. Again, sort of my overall take on this was, you know, it wasn't as powerful a social message, but it was very, very well done. I thought with the way they had the two storylines going at the same time, going back and forth, and I really enjoyed like both of those storylines. I think, you know, one was more sort of interpersonal between Van and Ern, and the other one was really interesting with Paperboy and Darius. So we're at
certainly
like what, a minute or sorry, a minute, an hour
and 20 minutes.
So this is what we said we were going to try to keep it shorter, but of course
make these shorter.
We were just as blowhardy as we were in the first 2 episodes. But do you want to?
It's fine. I think we talked about interesting stuff.
Do you want to wrap it up for us?
Yeah, sure. As always, we heavily appreciate any support you guys would want to throw us via Patreon. $5 here will grant you a shout out at the end of each of these episodes. We're recording these some of these in advance, so if you actually, I'll probably record like a dub at the end of each episode for anybody who's currently patroned. But we record these ahead of time, so and then schedule their releases. $5 tier will get you shoutouts. $10 tier will get you access to episodes early. We're planning on getting them out 2 weeks. So if you pledge $10, you'll immediately be able to watch right now it would be the 5th episode if you're listening to this on YouTube. And then the $15 tier, that'll get you access to bonus AtlantaCast content where we're going to talk about sort of tangentially related Atlanta content, mostly stuff like Childish Gambino music videos. There's also a hour-long film that most of the same crew that Atlanta did, which the name of it is escaping me at the moment, but here, let me search it up.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, and I don't remember either.
Yeah, it looked really interesting.
I like the idea of putting some sort of biographical background stuff out there as well. Just
on us?
No, not on us. On Donald Glover.
On Donald Glover,
and on Atlanta, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think a huge amount of the appeal of this show is in understanding just kind of the psyche of the people who made it, and having more context into that is just like purely a good thing that adds intrigue to it.
Well, I'm just thinking about like viewers who are more familiar with Atlanta itself. May recognize
certainly.
Things
Giving them an opportunity to like bounce off into other related media that they might also find enjoyable. Definitely, yeah.
There's not a whole lot that that are specific scenes of Atlanta that are, at least to me, that are like, oh, that's definitely that part of the city of Atlanta. I recognize, Peachtree Street or something. But I mean, people that live in Atlanta may recognize things. They may say, they may be very interested in where some of this was shot, and they may have more of a geographical context.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Guava Island was the film I was thinking about, but yeah, we'll definitely make sure to cover that at some point. But anyway, so we would definitely appreciate any support you guys want to give us. Until we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and 4,000 watch hours, we're not going to be able to monetize these YouTube videos. So Patreon is the only way that we'll be able to monetize these. But of course, if you don't feel like you can spare the money, which is totally fine, you can support us for free just by liking the video, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. Really helps boost these videos in the algorithm. YouTube does actually take a look at that kind of metadata when deciding if it wants to show these to other people. So we would greatly appreciate it. And, it only takes a few seconds. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day. See ya.